All right, so the apocalypse, right?
Absolutely. The end of the world.
It may be happening.
Right now?
Maybe. All right, guys, welcome back to the Kind of Book Podcast. Mr. Tony's Brown.
Irvin Bryant.
Shout out to DJ for making the beats.
At DW Made That on social media.
Like, follow, and subscribe. Follow us on all social media. It's at Kind of Woke. So let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Right.
End of the world.
I know you saw the pictures.
We've all.
Yeah, from California. The red sky.
A hellscape.
It's raining ash. Yeah.
And there are fire tornadoes.
You know, there's been hurricanes left and right, just slapping Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi across the face.
It's going to be a triple hurricane year, and I don't know if I ever have heard of such a thing before.
Yeah, we're about to get to the Greek letters for named storms, which is ridiculous. We're about to get to the Greek letters for named storms, which is, I mean, it hasn't happened in a long time. You know?
Very long time.
Yes. And so, on this show, we care about the diaspora, right? So let's talk the diasporic effect of these natural disasters that keep coming.
So let's just take a second and do a thought experiment. The diaspora, by nature, is immensely diverse.
Yes.
And we're only talking about a particular section, but it's still immensely diverse.
Yeah.
The Caribbean, right? Filled with people of all kind of colors, various different religions, wonderful, beautiful people. Bahamas, Jamaica, Cuba, just to name a few.
Puerto Rico, Haiti.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there are lots of poor people, descendants of slaves,
Yes.
those who have been systematically oppressed, to be honest, by being colonies, or once they rejected being colonies, they were oppressed by the powers that be who are ex-colonial leaders, right?
Yes.
So, you know, Haiti is what it is because of white supremacy on a global scale, the global hegemony.
Yeah.
All that aside, hurricane after hurricane, Puerto Rico in particular, hurricane after hurricane, leveling the Virgin Islands, taking out their electricity, infrastructure destroyed.
Hurricane Irma destroyed so much of St. John, but not its spirit. It's been over a week since Irma struck, but life is far from being back to normal. More than 90% of the water and power distribution systems are damaged. Recent rains have caused flash floods and mudslides, and schools could be closed for a year.
Which wasn't strong in the first place because this is colonial infrastructure, and then post-colonial infrastructure, and it never got to truly thrive. And so now we see a world that has not only rejected them on an interpersonal level, inter-society level, but is now rejecting them because nature itself has changed.
Yes.
The waters, the winds have changed in a way that, through no fault of their own, they are in the direct path of. And now there is a almost constant annual level of destruction that, at this rate, seems like it's unsurvivable.
Yeah, and so 2020 is the worst year for this because a lot of those places support themselves off of tourism, right? So the 2 weeks that you have spring break, the 3 months you have for summertime, those are when they make enough wages to live the rest of the year, right? So there was spring break lasted for about a week, and then they shut everything down. There was no summer vacations, right? And now on top of all of that, whatever money they have saved up must be spent to rebuild because of constant hurricanes, right? And so you have countries that rely on tourism, which is not allowed to happen. Probably won't happen until maybe 2022, back to levels it was in 2019, and it was before, right? And so it's going to probably take 2 years for that to happen. Plus, they got to rebuild everything and already have bad infrastructure, right? And then on the coastal areas in Texas and Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, you have black people, you know, even poor white people, who depend upon the sea, you know, who are fishermen, who have seaside tourism. You know, those places are all getting hit pretty bad. You know, and then in California, you have Hispanic people everywhere because it used to be Mexico.
Yes, California is Mexico.
And then you have Oakland, places like that are getting hit with wildfires. It's really, you know, poor people are taking a lot of the brunt here. You know, because if you're a Silicon Valley, you know, executive, right? If your house burns down, it sucks. It's bad. You know, it's loss of property.
Right.
Still a bad thing. But you can rebuild. You have the insurance, the money to do that, right? If you're a homeless person in California, which are a lot of them, wildfires, you know, burning down whatever little place you had, you know, is catastrophic. You know.
Yeah.
And so that kind of paints the picture. So this is why we kind of need to talk about this, right?
Yes.
So what are the solutions
So let's talk first. We're gonna go from one end of the spectrum to the other,
Right.
and then we're gonna leave the spectrum altogether. So one political side, and then what if it wasn't political?
Yeah.
First political side is one that we're very familiar with as Texans. It's the Republican side.
Yes.
This is a side that looks at Puerto Rico and says, figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, let's free throw a couple paper towels and keep on pushing. And so when we get into the details and say, okay, what's really happening here? If we look at the preventative side, okay, before the hurricane happens, there is global warming. It's the scientific culprit for more fires, more tornadoes, and more hurricanes. So if we try to prevent that, maybe we can solve the problem. And Republicans have an entire website dedicated to the Republican plan to protect us from climate change. What did you find, Tony?
Nothing. So a couple of Republicans who are in bluer states, they signed together to form a resolution that said nothing. That's it, right? And so most people, they reject the idea, they reject the premise that humans cause climate change. You're just not listening to science at that point. At this point, you just don't care. You know, Al Gore's Born Behind has been talking about this since the 90s. All right, known about this since Jordan was playing basketball. At this point, you don't want to hear it. You don't care about it.
It's a choice.
Yeah. And for a while, in the early 2000s, when Bush was president, his first term, there was some belief among Republicans that we should talk about climate change, right? When Chris Christie thought he was going to be president, I don't know why he thought he was going to be president, but we thought he was going to be president. He had a whole, we should talk about climate change, this thing we need to handle, right?
But when you have over 90% of the world's scientists who have studied this, stating that climate change is occurring and that humans play a contributing role, it's time to defer to the expert.
And then finally, the base just didn't want to hear it anymore, right? And their voters reject the premise because Fox News has been feeding them the ideal that climate change is a hoax. The scientists are making this up. This isn't a problem.
We've had one record-setting year after another as far as the heat on this planet. So
I don't buy that, Joe.
What do you mean you don't buy it?
I just don't buy the fact. I don't buy the fact that it's a crisis. I don't buy the fact that it's a crisis. I just don't.
I don't know how you can still see that when Hurricane Harvey was a 500-year flood. 500-year flood. Put it this way, Hurricane Harvey was so bad. The last time I saw a flood that bad, black people were in the United States of America.
Now, this is the last time we saw a flood that bad in Texas.
Yes.
Yes. So in the area where Houston exists,
yes,
where the city was underwater, the whole city.
Yes.
Westerners were not here.
Yeah.
And so Republicans don't have the answer.
Yes.
And Democrats have realized, okay, so we're presenting snowballs on the Senate floor, trying to prove that the Earth isn't warming. There is no negotiating with these people. Let's go with the wildest idea. Let's reach back in history and say, okay, when did we see America in dire straits and pull out the defibrillator and revive the country?
Yeah.
FDR, the New Deal. Okay, he was giving people jobs. We were building infrastructure. We were getting ready for war, military-industrial complex, save the country from the Depression. Let's rinse, wash, and repeat that. Instead of waging war against Nazis, we'll wage war against global warming, and all these production efforts will be toward retooling, recreating the economy, instead of building it toward war, building it toward sustainability. How's that going?
Yeah, so the Green New Deal is it's a couple ideas all together, right? There's a good Vox article that kind of explains the history of this. Other people have done the work. But real quick, the Green New Deal, one of the tenets that they guarantee jobs with firm sustaining wages, adequate family and medical leave, paid vacation, retirement security. They want to repair and upgrade infrastructure in the United States by eliminating pollution, right? They want to overhaul the transportation system in the United States of America, having more light rails, less cars, electric cars, right? They want to have America get rid of carbon emissions by 2035, right? So it's making this something you got to do now. If you want to get to 2035 to do this, you got to do this right now, right? And so the idea is that when FDR came into presidency after the Great Depression, he realized America's infrastructure needed to be rebuilt. There were places in America all over that didn't have electricity, right? Places that didn't have indoor plumbing, right? So he had to just revitalize the entire country, right? So I got to hire workers. Money was put behind the federal government to just restructure the United States of America, right? For the 50s. And so the idea is that now we need to restructure the United States of America for the future, right? The Green New Deal has been kind of rejected by Pelosi altogether, right? So she doesn't want to hear it. Chuck Schumer doesn't want to hear it, right? Now, Joe Biden he has a couple things. I want to kind of read this off to you, right? So his plan, 100% clean economy by 2050. It's a different timeline, so it means a longer time to get there. Rebuild American infrastructure and make sure it's green, right? It's not the same hard line that the Green New Deal takes, but it's still something, right? And then rally the rest of the world behind the goal, because I don't know if you know this, but the main culprit behind green emission, carbon emissions is China, Vietnam, other industrial companies, other countries like Russia, right?
Yes.
So that's a bold idea. So do you think it could work?
So, could the Green New Deal work? And I don't know what work means.
Yeah.
Because if work is Captain Planet, save the Earth from global warming, nice try, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Right? Unfortunately, the damage has been done. We've already broken the seal on carbon emissions in other countries who have far less democracy, far less of a moral compass when it comes to what we're doing to the rest of the globe.
Yeah.
China and Russia, they don't care. Then they're going to do that. Now, could it work in lessening America's impact on the globe? Could it work in healing our environments within our reach? Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yes. But the last, could it work? Could it work in the legislature? Could it actually come to fruition? Will America implement a Green New Deal? No. But, relatively conscious question for the comments. Do you think it'll work politically? Do you think it'll work for America? Do you think the Green New Deal will work for the world?
Yeah, so my answer is also no, because the political landscape of FDR as president is very different from now. So the Republicans pretty much lost all power in the 30s because they allowed the Great Depression to happen. And so from about 12 years, and even some people call it Truman's presidency, still part of FDR's presidency, right? For the next 12 to 15 years, FDR and the Democrats kind of ran the country. It was their show to run, right? And even when the Supreme Court tried to check FDR, he threatened to pack the court. As he's like, you're not about to stop me from doing this, right? And so we had a stable government that just, everything was about, let's make sure this happens. When you pass a Green New Deal now, 4 years later, 2 years later, the midterms, you got a totally new Congress. You got a totally new people in there, and what would they look to do more than anything else but to reject those ideas and repeal any bills that you pass, right? They keep doing that with the Obamacare, and that's not as wide as the idea of having an idea of clean energy or electric cars.
Also, the Green New Deal, kind of like universal health care, if negotiated and compromised upon to the point where it's lost its teeth, it will essentially have no effect.
Yes.
Right. So the system won't be corrected. I mean, Obamacare has given people health coverage. Mm-hmm. That is excellent. But the Democrats some are rallying for Medicare for all because problems still persist.
Yes.
And if the Green New Deal were to be implemented to the degree that it doesn't actually lessen carbon emissions, which would be the thing that we would lose because Shell isn't about to let it go down like that.
Yeah.
Halliburton's not going for it. And, then the environment's still going to constantly be pumped with all this CO2.
Yeah, we have 10 years to really drastically decrease our carbon footprint. And
the doomsday clock ticks closer to midnight.
And if we don't do it in 10 years, then, it's not going to happen. So the last, kind of to finish off here, is the free market. And I believe the free market's probably going to be the one to do this. Because the way how it works in California, where these wildfires are at, these are areas where people have built houses because of two people live in California. If you want to be real about it, take it behind to Kansas and stop going to California. I know the weather's nice. I know that's where the jobs are. But you may need to go somewhere else. But secondly, or come to Texas. We got space. Anyway, secondly, if you don't want to come to Texas, go to Austin, not to Houston. But secondly, a lot of people start building houses in these areas where it's likely to catch fire, right? So insurance companies answer that is like, if you build a house in an area that's likely to catch fire, I'm not going to insure your house. Which means someone's going to build a house because if the house burns down, they can't rebuild said house, right? So the way it looks like in Houston is that if you're in an area that floods, I'm not going to give you flood insurance, right? And it would be a free market solution where insurance can refuse to insure you so people move away from those areas to where they can get insurance, right? That's more likely how the world would reshape it, right? So There's gonna be communities in like Florida that be underwater, right?
Yeah, just Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi Delta,
New Jersey,
Galveston, Texas, all around the Gulf Coast, where poor people, where black people live, their communities will entirely, no fault of their own, entirely out of their control, out of really any human being's control.
Yeah,
the communities will be fundamentally destroyed.
Yeah, I'm talking about Caribbean communities, right, being destroyed. You know, years of history, culture, people being having to move. You know,
wiped away by the tide.
Yeah. Now, I think tourism will still exist, but I think they will build tourist resorts that can withhold that. But behind the resorts, if you're ever going on a cruise and going into the actual city, it's run down for no fault of their own. You know, so those places no longer exist. It will only exist around said resort, right? And I think that's how we're going to end up doing this because another party just refuses to believe that this is the problem. You know, and I don't understand how you can just reject that.
The ship is sinking, but I mean, I'm still standing on the ship.
Yeah,
I'm not in the water, so I guess we're fine.
Yeah. Also, for white people who have money, you know, not for all white people have money, right? Yeah. I can reject that premise because life for me is fine.
Yeah.
You know,
I can simply move.
Yeah. If my summer home in California burns down, I guess it's time to go to Texas. You know, and that's cool.
The country's lit these days.
Yeah. So, kind of depressing, but I want you guys to kind of, in the comments talk about what we want to do, what we should do.
Yeah. Will the Green New Deal work?
Give us some ideas. Like, comment, subscribe. Hit us up on Twitter at the Kind of a Podcast with Mr. Tony Brown.
Irvin Bryant.
That's the Kind of a Podcast.
You did. At Kind of Woke on everything.
We can do this again. Like, comment, subscribe. Hit us up on Twitter. At Kind of Woke on everything. We'd love to interact with you.
All right.
My name is Tony Brown.
Irvin Bryant.
Peace.
Do it to him,